Sixth chapter of the book of Psalms is one that is recited very regularly, or parts of it. Lamnatzech benigigot al hashminit mizmor leDavid, to the director of the musical instrument of the shmini. It's not clear what shminit is, an eighth instrument, some sort of instrument, the way they play. We said many of the Tehillim were set to music, allegro, whatever. It's not exactly clear what they are, but this is like many of them. This was for the Shminit, and it's a Psalm of David, Psalm of David, a Psalm about David. Again, these questions that we don't know the answers to. Adonai, al ba'abcha tochicheni, v'al b'chamatcha tiyasreni. God, do not punish in your anger. Do not chastise me in your wrath. Chaneni Adonai ki umlal ani. Adonai kinev halu atzamai. Favor me, God. Do not, because I'm broken, heal me, because my limbs are dismayed. So those who understand this chapter, most people, that it was somebody who is in pain, somebody who's suffering, somebody who believes that they are going to die of some sort of sickness or illness and is turning to God. This is sort of the first part of the psalm. Well, it goes on for a couple of more verses, but it's the author is turning directly to God to ask God to heal him, to help him with his grief. V'nafshi nivhala in verse 4, V'ata Adonai ad matai, and my soul is greatly troubled. And God, how long? How long will I have to go through this? Shuva Adonai chaltza nafshi hoshieni leman chastecha. Turn towards me, God. Rescue me. Save me for the sake of your kindness. Ki ein ba'mavet zichrecha, b'sheol miyodelach. Because in death there is no remembrance. In the underworld, who can thank you? Sheol, the underworld, some sort of, whether you understand something mythical or not, doesn't it's the afterlife, it's the dead. We'll see this in different places in Tehillim later on, as we say in Hallel Hametim Hallelujah. Right, the dead cannot praise you, God. Keep me alive, God. I can't praise you otherwise. And this is sort of the first part of the psalm. This person is sick. The Mishorer, you want to call him David, the author of the psalm, is sick, is ill, and is turning to God to help him from this sickness, to help him from this illness. And now it continues sort of with the second. Yagati ve'anchati, asche b'chol laila mitati, b'dimati arsi amseh. So I've become weary with my sighing and my moaning. Every night I make my bed, I lie down, but my couch becomes sort of like it's full of tears. My couch is right where I lie down. I'm saying the word couch here from a translation, but it means my bed is full of tears. It's all wet from all of the crying, all of the worries that I have. He's turned out, first it was to God, help me. He hasn't seen that deliverance happen. He hasn't seen God cure him of his sickness, of his illness, and thus he internally is crying. Ashisha nikas eini atka bechol tzurarai. My eye is dim because of grief. It has become old, right? Old because of my adversary. So this is the second piece of this psalm, this kapitel of Tehillim, where he's going to, right? He's it's his own internal. I'm not moving forward. God is not answering my prayers. Things are still bad. And now we turn to sort of it seems to be at the beginning that it's a personal prayer about sickness, but now maybe it's personification of sickness as being enemies, or maybe it's not just illness and sickness. We continue in verse 9. Suru bimeni kol poale aven, ki shama Adonai kol bechi. Depart from me, all of you sinners, all of you workers of iniquity, because God has heard my cries. Shama Adonai techinati, Adonai tefilati yikach. God has heard my supplication, has heard my prayers. God has accepted my prayers. Yevoshu v'yibalu ma'od kol avai, yashuvu yevoshu rega. All of my enemies are going to be frustrated. They're going to be shamed. They're going to be dismayed. They will turn back away from me in a moment. Very, very quickly, they will turn away from me. I am, right? Things have gone good for me. God has responded to to my prayer. God has listened to me, whether that again is about sickness, as it seems to be in the early part where he talks about his health and talks about the sickness, right? When we said Rafa'eni Hashem, heal me Hashem, kinivalu atzamai, back in verse 3, because my limbs are troubled, or whether it's referring to other sorts of enemies, and it's just there, it's seen as a sickness, but maybe it's not just a sickness. Either way, three-part psalm, the introduction, turning to God. I don't seem to have my answers. I'm crying, I'm tearing. And then finally, the Mishorer says, God has listened to my prayers and my enemies, whether that be this illness, this sickness, or whether it be literal, some sort of literal enemies. God has heard the prayer, and now we can, God has accepted, and thus my enemies have gone away. Again, this is, again, as we've said with many of the Tehillim, it's in the individual. It's said as a person saying it about his own, but of course it's used not just personally, it's used, we know, publicly, and it's used in terms of our community. People say it together as a prayer to turn to God to help at a time of need, whether it be healing or whether it be from other enemies who may be coming after the Jewish people.